tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Yes, we are not in Russia, but the show was. Welcome, AFTERBUZZ TV fans. This is the Limitless after show, as you know from watching. Brian takes a day trip, well, a little vacay in Russia, hence the anthem right there. Very powerful stuff. This is episode 18. Welcome, guys. I'm your lead host, JB Zimmerman. You guys can follow me at Hey John Blake, alongside the full panel. Frank, how are you?
Good.
Amanda,
wonderful to be
Hello.
here. Hi, guys.
Introduce yourselves.
Sure, I'm Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M.
And I'm Amanda. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at AmandaFta31.
Nice. Well, before we jump into the episode, there's a lot of Piper to talk about, right, Amanda?
Your favorite.
Exactly.
I'm on the
Totally.
Team Piper now.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Favorite.
Well, yeah.
I'm on there.
Is it Team Briper? Or are we calling it
I think it would be
Pipe
I think
Pan? What are we?
I think
What are you
it's
gonna go?
Pipin.
Pipin?
Brian.
Brian.
Brian. I
Team
like
Brian.
Briper.
Team Brian.
Yeah.
Partial to Briper, but it's okay.
Okay,
We
fine,
can
JB.
do-
We can call it what you
We
want to
can.
call it. If you'd like.
Well, that's up for debate. Let's keep the discussion going. It's gonna be an ongoing thing.
Great, now
if you
that we
guys
talked about
are listening, watching out there, please tweet out at us. Use the hashtag ABTV Limitless. Rate and review the show. Comment on YouTube. What do you think the new relationship should be called? And do you guys think it's better than Brecca? Ooh,
I don't want to talk about it.
I definitely.
I know we
do,
have
but-
to talk. Actually, we do want
Spoiler,
to talk about
it's
it.
better. Before we get too deep into the show, I do want to talk about something that's groundbreaking in the AFTERBUZZ studio. A new show called The Tomorrow Show was just released. It started yesterday. Last night was the first show. So if you guys are curious about celebrity boyfriends, midlife crises, I don't know, plural for that, enjoy hearing stories about just behind the stuff that's going on in Hollywood, or just amused by TV and movie quotes that get festive around those references. Then you guys are going to love this show. It's called The Tomorrow Show. It's hosted by Kevin Undergaro, who is now recently engaged to Maria Menounos.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he's a huge part of AfterBuzz.
He's the founder
he
of
is.
AfterBuzz.
Well, yeah,
He
what
is
a
AfterBuzz.
co-founder with
Co-founder
his
with Maria.
now fiance,
Yeah.
Maria. But they're awesome. You know, it's one of his shows that he does with a few other AfterBuzz alums, Roxy Stryer and Ashley Daniels. They're great. Frank, you saw the show.
Yeah, I watched it last night. It's certainly different. It's an interesting thing. And for those of you out there who don't know Kevin Undergaro and haven't had a chance to listen to him, he has a wealth of knowledge about the way things work in Hollywood. He has great stories. I like
Oh, yeah, he
you know,
does.
once a year we do a seminar here at AfterBuzz. We all come and he talks to us about direction. And I'm always fascinated to hear him tell stories. And like you said, Roxy and Ashley are great on the show. And Lauren LaGrasso's in the background too, having a lot of fun. They seem to really enjoy what they're doing, and it's an interesting concept. I really liked it watching it last night.
Definitely. It's a cool group to sort of see their perspective on things. Obviously, I don't know, fans of Ashley and Roxy know their style, but to see Kevin on a show about something he knows so much about, like you said, he's really a huge inspiration that we have here at AfterBuzz, and you know, he's a well-established producer. Obviously got Maria's eyes as well.
Yeah, well,
so
Maria
you know.
last night on the show, Maria told a story about her fertility treatments that she's going
Oh
through.
wow!
In graphic detail. Not just not,
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of groundbreaking
there.
gossip and stuff that's going on. But if you guys want to tune into that, watch it live on AfterBuzz on Monday and Thursday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific time. Or on thetomorrowshow.com. You guys can subscribe and download free on iTunes, or go to thetomorrowshow.com for more info. Check it out.
They have awesome costumes too.
They do. They do. They get festive.
They do get festive.
Speaking of festive, Brian in this episode got really into the Russian culture, which is drinking. Drinking vodka, exactly. Specifically, it's the beverage of the country, which I approve of.
As do I.
I love how they do this whole play on drunk history. I mean, it was the show Drunk History. They did a bit like 4 shots in. Like first he's not about to take the drink. Then he kind of gets like peer pressured a little bit by this very intimidating Russian guy, who I can only assume is like a mobster. But drinks with him. 4 shots later, he's telling the whole story. Again, I love in this drunk history style where he's narrating, but we have all the other actors improving, like acting to his narrative, which was really fun.
It's perfect. It's so funny. Their facial expressions were hilarious.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, he like for some odd reason gave Nas like a weird accent thing.
Yeah.
She kept saying like, yeah.
And
Like,
Sans' accent was perfect.
yeah, Sans
He's
is
like,
pretty
hello,
good.
I'm Sans. It was perfect. I could only imagine what the actors had to go through. Like, he obviously recorded it all first, and then they
Right.
had to play back. But it must have just been like I could just see some people being like, really?
Yeah.
Like, this is what you did for this for this little like snippet? I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode for the reasons the drunk history shout out, but also, and I've been talking about this for weeks, this show has enough on its own and its main characters that you don't have to go off on all these tangential stories about cases of the week. There's enough there to dig into each one of these characters and what's going on, going to Russia, and primarily having this be about Brian and Piper. But then at the same time, what's going on at the CJC too, it's all of these characters that are existing here. And it's so much more interesting when we have the characters that we know already, that we have an opinion about, and we see something new from them. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite episodes by far.
Yeah, this was a fun one. And again, I agree with you, Frank. I really appreciate when they dig deep.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Game of Thrones, which we'll get into. Heavy on the references there.
Had a little guest spot.
Where there's like so many characters where they like go off and they never come back. Like this was a perfect amount, I feel like, of freshness where we were with Brian and Piper in Russia for basically the whole episode. I mean, we had flashes back to, you know, the reality in America sort of meanwhile, but it felt so new, and it felt like you know, we never really, it wasn't like a procedural throwaway thing. It was so much further than that. Like, again, being new, like Piper we haven't seen in many episodes. Thank God she's back.
Much to our detriment.
I
yeah,
know.
So
exactly.
it's good to
It's
have
a
her.
sad time, Frank. Right, Amanda?
I
You
like
agree.
her now. Maybe it was the red wig. I don't know.
All right.
But I like her now.
She's
I do.
what?
I
The
just
blonde thing? You're not having like a bonding?
I don't know. I
Nothing
just
like
don't like blondes.
that? Really?
I mean, who likes blondes, honestly?
Well, apparently,
I do.
I'm just kidding.
Oh my
none of
gosh.
us. Yeah.
I guess if you're listening, you can't see that I am blonde.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
Self-hating a little bit, Amanda.
No, I liked her this episode.
Nice.
Well, yeah,
Sugar
she's
on me.
great. That's why.
Okay,
She's
okay.
wonderful.
Guys.
And
She's lovely.
she's
She's
lovely.
smart.
Well, and a true and
She's
real
sexy.
chemistry
She
between
is. She's very
Brian,
sexy.
a legit love interest for him. We're not really guessing, as we are with Rebecca, as to what Piper's true feelings are. We see them having a fun week together. In the lead up to the breaking in and getting the plant extract that they need to make the rest of the shot. But it was relationship building and a character that we already knew. So there weren't these, you know, a bunch of people that I kind of need to keep track of, and then you only know them as, the bank guy, or the guy who's on the FBI's most wanted list.
Right.
You can't remember those people. We know Finch's dad, we know his mom, and Rachel, the little rat out there. Rachel. And so when the episodes connect this way, it enhances my viewing of the show.
Of course.
And makes me look forward to next week. I'm looking forward to see what happens to him next week. And this is in spite of Bradley Cooper coming back as Edward Mora. There's enough there, just with the organization being present and the goal of trying to remove yourself from the shot and the constant need of being Sans' puppet, that the show can stand on its own. And I think tonight it did that.
No, exactly. And even the action throughout I thought was sort of higher level. I don't know if you guys remember Alias. It kind of reminded me of that show where they were sort of in disguises. It was much more of a secret agenty James Bond or like XXX type of feel to this episode. I mean,
Totally
especially
agree.
like in the like Russian like mob setting.
Yeah. It made me think of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol when Tom Cruise and Paul Patton are in a party scene, and they're trying to deceive the host of the party. So yeah, it rang true. It felt very much like a spy thriller in a way, which was a lot of fun.
And a little bit of romance. Like, I loved when they had their week off, and it was so cute when he was pushing her in the snow and they were having like a little romance. I found myself smiling. I was so excited.
That's great.
Because you never see that.
That's true.
Like with Rebecca, it was always kind of like we can tell they care about each other, but there's no flirtation. Like Nate, I can't talk. Naz's daughter, we didn't say anything.
Well, hang on now. Okay, let's not speak blasphemy about Naz's daughter.
I'm just saying it was not the same as Miss Piper.
That's true. Good point, Amanda. She's no Piper, Frank. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this
she
one.
She didn't get a lot of. Okay, she got one episode, which was totally unfair, and maybe she'll come back for season 2. We'll bring her back later. But to expand on Amanda's point, there were layers to this episode that allowed us to take a break from the action and experience the romance that was going on between the two characters and the chemistry that was happening between them. But then the ultimate goal of this whole mission,
right,
to further the spy language, is that they need to be free of the Mora organization. They have a shared goal, experiences, and ultimately at the end of the episode she decided to come back and save him. Right.
And that's why I think they again work so well as characters. Obviously there's the chemistry we can talk about, but I feel like in the writing, sort of them as people fit much better than Brecca, just because it doesn't have the whole like work dynamic and hierarchy that gets in the way. I mean, at the end of the day, like, Brian could have feelings for Rebecca, but she's basically his boss. Like, if or when anything happens between them, like, there's gonna be some massive issues. Right. We can skip all that with Brian and Piper, and that's what's cool. Is like they are both in it because they want to be. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm contracted by you and I need you for the NCT. It's like, this is something we both want on like a separate level. Plus, they're really able to appreciate each other's intellect and strength. The fact that they got to work together and like crack this whole code and create this plan. I mean, Brian alone was able to break her out of prison by calling in a favor to George R.R. Martin. That was an interesting side twist.
But hold on, as a fan of Game of Thrones myself, I don't want to know the ending. Like, when she said that, he's like, "Oh, now you can know the ending of everything." Like, no, I experience the.
Oh Jesus! I just spilled everywhere.
Well, but now he can take bets on things and win money. He can do stuff like that. That's what he's trying to do.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know if I would want to be told from. I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm still.
There's no way you
still on the fence.
Didn't that just happen?
Because it's such a good show. I feel like I would want to experience through the show.
Great books.
But I mean, think about the books. Like the people. Thank you. Sorry, I had an accident. People in the studio. I am not allowed to have nice things, and this is why. The people who read the Game of Thrones books. Sorry, we're taking a complete sidebar to Game of Thrones, but it needs to be done.
No, it needs to be done because Game of Thrones is.
Well, no, I mean, yeah. Do you think the people that read the books are spoiling it because they get like it before the show, technically?
I think so, in a way. I've read ahead in the book, so I knew kind of what was coming in the last season of Game of Thrones. But now we're in brand new territory,
right?
So I actually am not reading the books anymore because I want to be surprised by the show. Because the show is
the show is very good, but the show has gone off book now, so there's no complete guarantee that you're gonna get the same thing.
That's
same
true.
ending.
They have gone off in their own direction. Anyway, we'll talk.
Okay,
about
we have derailed a little bit. Let's back to Limitless. Although, I mean, through no fault of her own, they've integrated both shows,
they brought it
which
up.
is good. I mean, I love Game of Thrones, and I love that this show is pop culture enough, and they're able to do that turnaround so fast. I mean, they must have known the air date would be before Game of Thrones does come back in April. So I love that they are hitting on that. Like, it's a lot of different things. Drunk History has, is a recent show and like a fresh kind of idea. I love how they're being more modern about everything. And, again, I think it just contributes to how fun of a show this is to watch. Like, it's talking about other shows that I like.
Yeah, it seems that the creative team and the producers have a love of television, and it seems a lot of episodes this season were sort of theme episodes. We had the Graduate episode. We've had the one that was very comic book related, sort of Tarantino style. Right. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of shout outs to different styles of TV and TV making, and they threw a big shout out to Game of Thrones. I can remember some Entourage references from
definitely. They also,
that was great.
When real quick before I forget on that note, because Brian had a good quote from Airplane when he was kind of debating with himself after he took the pill to find Piper when he only had 2 left. He was like talking about like, oh yeah, Shirley, that doesn't mean anything. He's like, oh yeah, it does, but don't call me Shirley. Right. Classic line. Line. I love how again they're both modern and sort of paying homages to the older TV and movie cinema too. Mm-hmm. They should go on this Tomorrow Show.
And it also shows that they don't take it too seriously, which is why, like, I love that this is a drama, but it's not so dramatic, especially with the landscape of television right now and how so many things are so dramatic, like Fargo and Breaking Bad and things like that. This is kind of nice. It's like lighthearted. It's not a comedy, obviously, but it's a lot more lighthearted than some of the crazy things that are happening on television right now.
Oh, and speaking of your point there, Brian playing his little tambourine or whatever the
yes, the Russian ukulele.
The Russian ukulele. That was hilarious and funny, and I was laughing out loud at that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this show makes you smile. It makes you smile even when all this craziness is going on. At the end of the day, I'm smiling.
I will say that it makes me smile when the moments are organically created and not manufactured. Jake McDorman was just having a blast doing that scene, and you could see it, and he's just like giving like weird like looks to the camera.
Yeah, he had the rose in his mouth.
He had the rose in his mouth.
He must be having a blast. Yeah. I would love to talk to him.
So for this episode, you're right. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and the show can be a lot of fun, but then get back into the overarching story elements that we have each week,
right?
Which I thought got really furthered in this episode tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, one sort of meanwhile again back in America that we were tracking. Obviously, Nas is pissed that Brian's gone. Mike and Ike pull Rebecca aside and they tell her about this whole Rachel thing and how she's she told them that there's another agent. I don't know how much, if she went into descriptive detail with Ike, I guess, or Mike, either of them, but she eventually at the end gives it all away to Rebecca.
Of course she does.
If there's one thing we can count on, it's Rachel talking.
I know. The first note I wrote is Rachel equals worst.
We had one of our listeners comment on our YouTube page that I want to shout out. Actually, a bunch of really good comments out there, really smart stuff. So I want to shout out a few people here. This is John Dewey. He said, if I had a weasel for a sister like Rachel, I would disown her in a heartbeat.
Good call,
really
sir.
Funny.
She is just the worst.
Another one, Michelle Fitzgerald said, I don't understand what Brian's family doesn't get about the fact that Brian now works for the FBI. There are some things that he can't tell them, and quite frankly, what he has in this house is none of his mother's or sister's business.
Interesting. I like that point a lot because, you know, we did have that scene tonight with Rebecca coming to Brian's house, seeing his family. His dad was obviously upset and kind of giving it to Rebecca about like how this is not right and how she can't guarantee that he's going to be back. You know, I have mixed feelings a little bit because on one hand he is working with the FBI and I feel like if you were a parent of someone who is in law enforcement or in national security or something like that, you have to accept that that's what they want to do and that's a risk that they are taking. Like, you can't blame other people for your child's decision to kind of put their life on the line. At the same time, the situation isn't that black and white where Brian like signed up for the army or something. You know, he is a nice kid and he was sort of drawn into this because of NZT and that, I don't know, it really muddies the waters to figure out like who is right. Like, I mean, the FBI at the end of the day is giving Brian drugs every day and basically forcing him to work with them. Like, I don't know how much he gets paid. It's probably some severance, but
and a nice apartment in New York.
Yeah, he's got
Fairly
a pretty good place, and you know, some protection. There's benefits. Yeah, like we.
And how much do his parents really know? Do they know the full story?
Well,
as well?
No, they don't. They're definitely in the dark, but I mean that's what I mean.
It's
like,
a lot
it's
of
still
fear too.
Well, there's one other comment that one of our listeners posted on the YouTube page that I thought was really prescient. He said, this is Demetrius Barrett. He said, one thing that really bugged me about Finch's mom's reaction was that Brian was on NZT when he figured out what was wrong with his dad. She totally overreacted. So remember, Brian, you know, basically provided the diagnosis for his dad's original health issue at the beginning of this show.
Which basically saved his life.
Yes. So you know, she probably doesn't know that he was on NZT when he did it. But, you know, another really good comment from a listener out there.
Nice. Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good spot.
One last person I wanted to point out, this is Richard Strong. He said, Brian's family are acting as if NZT is some kind of typical addictive opiate. And no amount of sharing and caring is going to solve the mess that he's in, and their ignorance has gotten them all into a lot of trouble. So
yeah, no, I second that. I think that there is a certain naiveness with the family that associate the drug with out knowing. I mean, granted, there's not a lot of info out there just to like Google because Eddie Moore is probably like paid to get rid of all of that stuff on the web. But yeah, I feel like especially the mom, you know, was really judgmental, not knowing what it was. You know, there are, I mean, Adderall is kind of a close analogy to use, but there are my point is just that there are drugs that do help people in a variety of ways that aren't harmful. I mean, to say that, you know, they're doing these treatments for Brian and just be so close-minded to the possibility that it's a benefit to either Brian or his health or anything could even be a positive, I think is pretty narrow-minded, and you know, makes me not like the character.
I think honestly, a lot of it is fear, though. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of something going on that you aren't aware of, something going on with your son that you can't figure out and that you know you're not allowed to know about, makes you as a parent just absolutely terrified. Right. So I think a lot of the anger and a lot of that's why they are being they're almost overreacting a bit. Yeah. Is because they're terrified. I mean, if I knew that my little brother was on some crazy drug, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, I would freak out.
Yeah, and it played into this episode with Brian's dad going ape all over Rebecca.
That was a scene.
Yeah. He was not having any of it.
He was not pleased.
And for a good reason. And you know what? I wrote down this note after Nas came into the conference room to ask Boyle and Rebecca if there was anything new. Mm-hmm. You could kind of see it on her face, and it rung a bell in my head. So she must have been thinking it too, that she was thinking back to her scene with Brian's dad. about how he said, if he's ever in danger, you're gonna hear from me. And as soon as she had that reaction that they had nothing new, I kind of felt like that came back for her, that scene. It may have just been a personal reaction to the way I took her performance, but I really think, and this is what's so interesting about the show, is the family element to it. They're genuinely concerned about his whereabouts, and his dad just shut everything down. It was totally distrustful of Rebecca. Probably to a fault, because she genuinely loves Brian. I think it's not too bold to say.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I was gonna go there as well, just because we had that whole scene with Rebecca and Nas saying that, like, you've never taken a day off ever. We had to, like, force you when you were so deathly ill to take a half day, and now she's taking time off. That's huge for someone who has, like, a basic perfect attendance record, to use time to kind of go rogue and be sort of on the sidelines trying to figure this out.
And for someone who feels betrayed, just last week was so betrayed by him that she got him a new handler, and now to be taking time off to go find him, it just shows how much she really does care about him. And that last week was almost a defense mechanism to get herself out of.
Yeah, I don't think she would have been able to handle going through that.
She's carrying a lot of guilt in this episode. Nas spots it when they're talking about the vacation, like you were saying, JP. But I wanted to see more from Rebecca. What did she do to try and get Brian back, other than kind of run around and try and talk to Rachel?
Talk to the airlines and say, I don't know when I'm traveling.
Yeah. It just wasn't quite enough of an effort, but ultimately we are going to get Brian back, is with brand new information that is coming Rebecca's way. Right. Now that she knows that Brian is connected to Mr. Sands, it's going to change their relationship again. So you had, like you said, Amanda, you had Rebecca going from, very defensive and pushing Brian away, to then she realizes she made a mistake and wants him back. And now you have, this is what's so interesting, it's so well done, well crafted from the writing and the creative team. Now Brian's gonna come back and she's gonna know he's
I know, it's completely completely flip-flopped so many times, and now it's very uncertain. I was just kind of picturing the end call message that the voicemail that Brian leaves with Rebecca, as she's talking to his sister, who's just giving everything away. Like, how much things changed in an instant. Like, maybe it'd be different if he had called and talked to her or something, but everything he was saying, like, I don't know if things are gonna be okay when I come back, but I am coming back, and I think that we are gonna be good. It's interesting because at that moment, like, everything before and leading up to that moment, it would have been fine if he came back. Like, he literally would have had zero consequences, and they would have been like, Brian, oh God, thank God you're safe. But now, just as a marker of time, that's not the case. It's completely different. Like, she now knows that he's connected to Sands. She's a smart person. She's gonna add that up to any more. She already figured that Sands is connected to him. It is not looking good.
Nope. You can always count on Rachel to
ruin everything.
It's crazy though, because I always thought Rebecca would have figured it out herself in some way. It's interesting that they went the route of having the sister just spill the beans. I mean, that's fine, but it was just, I really thought Rebecca was gonna somehow figure it out.
You know what? That's a great point, Amanda, because the past few episodes we've seen little clues, and it started when Mr. Sands offered Rebecca a job. Right. And every sort of end of the episode, we get this cliffhanger where she gets another clue, and then we see her in a room with Eddie Moore clippings, and looks further into Mr. Sands. You're right. She seemed to be very close to figuring it out on her own.
Yeah. And then they just bring in Rachel.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I think she's... I don't want to discount Rebecca, because she's very smart. But I'm going to slightly disagree with you guys. I don't think she would have figured... I mean, it's easy as an audience member who know them as main characters to like, you know, kind of guesstimate, like, when is she gonna figure out that Sans is connected to Brian? But I feel like in their reality, she's got a lot more on her plate that we don't realize. Like, you know, she's got, like, you know, mountains of suspects in every possible case. Like, she came across Sans once for a job that was sort of unrelated and didn't really have any connections to Brian. Like, we've sort of seen the breadcrumbs because we know that he switched out the jacket with the button and stuff. But, like, she notices those things, but without that connection to Sans. Like, not knowing that he is sort of behind the scenes and talking to Brian. I mean, maybe she would have figured it out had she tailed Brian or something, or had some surveillance with him. But I feel like because of Rebecca's relationship with Brian, she would never do that to, I guess, get that extra edge to figure it out. I mean, she was close. She is very smart, and, like, as soon as Rachel said British accent, she had it.
Yeah.
Right.
So she, you know, she put it together very quickly. I just don't think she would have jumped at the chance to be like, Sans, that guy that, like, offered me a job, you know, is working with Brian.
I don't know. I still think she was close.
Well, no, I think she's close.
agree with what
I
you're
guess
saying.
my
We're
point is
viewers.
more that I think her relationship with Brian blinds her sort of to
Right.
that a bit.
Right, that is true. That is true. She's almost too close.
Yeah, exactly.
Too close to really look
exactly.
at it from an objective standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the comeuppance is here next week.
Yes. No, it's like the cat's out of the bag.
The cat's out of the bag. We've got 4 episodes left in the season.
Wow.
And
Man,
yeah,
intense.
so this was a big one. I mean, for her to find out that he is in league with Mr. Sans, and also for Piper to say that she's probably 1 week away from having the enzyme or the shot ready,
which is huge. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a photo finish. What's gonna happen first? Because we also learned that Sans now knows that Piper is still alive when he and obviously Eddie Mora thought she had died.
it's almost as if Brian's not going to have any allies anymore. He's walking back into a situation where everybody thinks he's playing for the other team. So Sans thinks he's with Piper. Rebecca thinks he's with Sans. He's really not going to have anywhere to go.
Right.
I mean, does Rebecca trust him when he comes back from this trip? When he disappeared, didn't tell anybody, and now she knows he's in with Mr. Sans? You know, they're not going to trust him with cases anymore.
I was about to say, the kicker is now that he's in this pickle, and because of that, he's probably not going to get any more NZT.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
God, no. I made a connection too. It does seem as though, like, because Rebecca last week was so, like, against him and she felt betrayed by him, and then this week she kind of turned around. I realized, though, it kind of makes sense with what he said last week about how she's an adrenaline junkie and she wants to, like, that's her addiction, is
Right.
trying to figure things out. So I almost feel like maybe it wasn't so much about Brian, it was just that she saw a moment of, like, going and helping and figuring something out, and that's what she lives for.
yeah,
More than how much she cares about Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Well, yeah,
just came to me.
Unlike Brian, she signed up for this type of work from day one. Like,
Right.
she has been groomed, like, her entire life to be this type of person. You know, Brian fell into it, like, a few months ago. So, like,
just chilling.
although he's found his groove,
Yeah.
you know, it's a different type of mentality. Like, she literally lives to solve cases and put things together
And her father and everything that happened to
Right.
him, and him being an addict, of course, adds to that. But I don't know. For me, I just felt like it was so interesting that she had such a 180
Right.
from last week. Like, last week, she's like, I want you out of my life, basically. And this week, she's taking a week off, which she's never done before, to go find him.
Exactly.
But maybe there's a little bit more to it than just feelings.
Well, I think an important distinction to make is that Brian can technically turn it off. Like, when the 12 hours wears off, like, he is back to, like, pot smoking Brian and would be right at home, like, just chilling Netflix and like all day.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Rebecca, like, can't. Like, she is that person. She
It's her
is.
life.
That's who she is, like, day in and day out.
Right.
To get back to your point about Brian being off NZT, there was a scene in this episode between Brian and Piper where they talked about going off NZT and running off together and living a life of love and poetry and a cottage on the sea.
He basically proposed. I mean, obviously not in a formal way, but like suggested a different path that they...
Yeah, and I thought Piper's response was so spot on and interesting. She
I wrote
said
it down.
Well, then take it.
No, you can say
Please.
it.
No,
I'm just saying I wrote it down because it meant a lot to me.
What did she say?
Yeah.
She said we have to be rational. Love has no place in that.
Exactly. Well, and then the other thing
Cold
she
words,
said...
Piper.
The other thing she said, though, was that... you guys laughing it threw me off. No, she also said that you can't go back to the life that you had before because now everybody knows about you being on this drug. So it's not as if they can go back to the way things were before they came into this NZT world. So I really liked that scene. It was poignant. It was interesting. It didn't feel forced at all. The chemistry is real between the two characters, and she is very world aware of what's around her. And Brian still has that naivete that we love about him. The almost innocence that he has, the boyish quality that we root for and we hope for. Even though he's done some bad things this season that we've seen him do, he's had to make some tough choices as to in his role to keep him clean. But that scene for me really galvanized. It showed me that he still wants out of this. He still wants to get back to a normal life, and I don't really think that's possible anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We were talking about this, I think, last episode when he called Rebecca out for, basically, and the FBI for getting him addicted to this drug.
Yeah.
And I think that reality hasn't really set... I mean, he said it sort of in defense, kind of in the heat of the moment, but I don't know if that reality has really hit him. For me... that moment where he had with Piper that you were just talking about was showing sort of where he would be maybe a little further along, a little longer after taking NZT, where you have fully accepted this is it. I mean, I think there's only so many times that you can experience that the greatness and everything you can do, all your abilities enhanced on NZT, and not have that overcome your life as the standard. I mean, I think that tipping point has happened for Piper, so she knows that she will never be satisfied by a normal life. Brian, because it's a little bit newer, sort of striking me as you were saying, like, maybe it is a little naive, but I think he is like, hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe it's not, I can just play guitar or something and keep a simple life. But I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like, when you see what's behind the curtain, like, can you stop?
Which is crazy to show that it's not everything. It's, I feel like a lot of the reason we started watching the show, and I'm sure a lot of viewers started watching the show, is because they want to think about what it's like to be on NZT and how amazing it must be. But it shows that at the end of the day, it's not everything.
Right.
Being able
and
to
it's
use
still a drug.
It's still a drug. It's still not good, people.
With significant side effects that, if go untreated, lead to death.
Yes.
So when you were talking before, JB, about them possibly not giving him any more NZT, I thought, well, that means that he's dying. But it would be a really interesting plot point if Rebecca goes, I can't trust you anymore, and Nas the same thing. But I think, like you were saying, Amanda, the desire, the adrenaline rush from solving all these cases is too much for Rebecca to recommend that. And Nas has got to be getting some credit, too, for getting all of these cases done and taking care of a lot of issues.
Her department has been killing it since Brian arrived. I mean, she's got to have free reign over, like, everything.
I'd have to think so. She's in a really good position, and she really does want Brian back. She says so she can shoot him herself.
Yeah. Right.
But I think it's to
well, and I saw in that scene too a little bit of a maternal instinct. Like, she seems, I mean, I think I even wrote down Nas cares about him all. Like, she cares a little bit.
Right.
You can see it in her eyes.
She does.
See it in her eyes.
She cares about
like
him.
a mama bear, like a don't mess with my, well, we've talked about this before, like don't mess with my people.
My cub.
My cup.
But yeah, I mean, she definitely cares about him. Also, I mean, she has to know that there would be a huge catastrophe if anything did happen to Brian. Obviously, his dad would raise a stink pretty big.
We saw from tonight that's a little scary.
Bring the house down.
I loved him tonight. He was
Yeah.
great. Ron Lufkin was great tonight. And no, he wasn't acting as an attorney, but he is an attorney. So there's going to be a certain amount of language that he uses that suggests that he is bringing the law.
Right, he knows how to pull those heartstrings.
He knows, but it's, you know, he probably treated Rebecca a little harshly. But it's understandable. I mean, he's in a situation where his son is missing and nobody knows where he is.
Yeah, he was definitely in dad mode.
Yeah.
And really, they said they had satellites orbiting the Earth and they couldn't find him. That's scary.
I don't remember that part.
It's not. Nas, when she says she's going to go on vacation.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
When Rebecca says she's going to go on vacation, Nas is like, we have people flying, we have people on the ground, we even have satellites orbiting the Earth.
Right.
Right?
Well,
So
I mean, it's
what she
tough.
said.
But remember when the Malaysian Airlines flight went down and, you know, they had satellites looking all over that stuff. I mean, there were millions of people. I remember myself going onto this website and you could comb through an image and try and like look for debris and mark the debris on the website so that somebody else could review it and see if it was suspicious or wreckage or anything like that. And there were millions upon millions of these tiles of images that you have to go through. So it's not surprising to me that a satellite would be shooting photography of where Brian might be, and then you never having a chance to figure out where he is.
I mean,
That's
he
insane.
has been on NZT. Like, you know, Piper had a stash build up. They've been on NZT the entire week.
Right.
Obviously trying to do this little like romance heist thing that they had planned. But, you know, I think that they would also keep into consideration that the FBI would be looking for them. Like, Brian brings that up a number of times when he got captured. He brought it up. Like, we can assume that they were very careful about their
Well, he
whereabouts.
wasn't at the start of the episode. I was getting nervous. I was like, he's mouthing off and he's telling these guys everything.
Yeah, well,
he's, in
he's a
FBI,
bit of a
he's
lightweight.
NZT.
You get a couple shots in him.
No, he had a
all
lot of
comes
shots. There were like 3 to begin with.
Yeah, then
there
4.
were 4.
Yeah, no,
Then there were 2 more.
I think it was 4, 3, and then 2.
Oh, you wrote it down.
So, yeah.
So 9 shots. That's crazy town.
That's a lot.
And he's going mouthing off.
Jimmy was
about
like,
it.
that's a normal Friday night for me.
That was
Tuesday
JB's
morning.
That was
No
JB's
problem.
Saturday last week. He was hungover on Sunday. But, well, we're not going to hang out with you on Thursday. I can't even imagine what you're going to be doing on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That is Thursday. It's exciting.
Yeah. JB will
No,
have
I'm
green
gonna-
beer.
I'm
He's
gonna-
march in
yeah,
here with
green-
beads and
yeah,
green beer.
I'll be Ubering to the studio.
Exactly. Very smart.
No, it's a work. It's a
But-
school night, Frank.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Point being, as it regards to the show and getting drunk, it's like, Brian, why are you out there mouthing off about all this?
Yeah.
Just because you've had a few drinks.
That's what I
Right.
thought this episode was going to be about in the beginning, was him telling them all this information. Then they turn out to be like the Russian mob or something.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah,
He
that's
was
what
gonna
I
be screwed.
feared when he was telling the guy who was just staring straight ahead and saying
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bodyguard
Yeah,
who
the
ended up,
bodyguard.
you know,
But
getting
maybe he doesn't
Piper.
speak English. Maybe he doesn't speak English. Fingers crossed.
But yeah, I mean, I think after that, the last one, he was just talking to the bartender who wasn't even listening. He was
Yeah.
just blatantly talking out loud in a crowded place.
Which we've all done. Don't lie.
Fair enough.
We've all been there.
Touche.
You've
touche.
been there, JB. We all know you've been there.
Perhaps. I mean, I don't know if I've ever divulged confidential information.
FBI information.
FBI information
and
of
your-
that
the
high.
secret drug
yeah.
that you're taking.
Exactly. Probably not of that clearance, but I'm sure I've said some stuff that would be regrettable knowing in retrospect.
Good. I'm glad you're saying this on our wonderful podcast,
Hey,
so
you gotta
thousands
come
of people
clean.
can hear.
Absolutely.
Get it off your chest.
Totally honest.
That's what we're about here. Integrity. But yeah, let's go to predictions. I think that wraps it up. Anything else from this episode you guys want to talk about?
TV prediction.
No, I just think that the tension's really amped up this week with Brian basically being a man with no nation now. He won't be welcomed back with open arms from anybody. His family, the CJC, the Mora organization, no one's going to want him now. So I'm predicting he's going to come back and he's going to be a man without a mission, but that ultimately him and Rebecca will have a reconciliation to where she brings him back on his side. But
right.
I also think, I'm going to make a prediction for the end of the season. I think Brian will tell Rebecca that he's working for the Eddie Mora organization. He may be able to explain away the Sands correlation, because he does. As long as he doesn't admit it, it could be another tall, thick, bald guy. You know,
right.
It doesn't have to be Mr. Sands with a British accent. Though she'll have her suspicions. I think in the ultimate episode of this season, he's going to tell her.
I think that Eddie Mora might give him some type of ultimatum, or might have him actually have to do something to Rebecca, or come up with some type of decision on if to maybe possibly even kill her, like, and then he decides not to do it in the end, or something like that. I think something huge is going to happen.
There's one other thing I wanted to predict that
Yeah.
you just reminded me of, is that I think Eddie Mora is going to set about persuading Brian now. Because I kind of think Brian is going to go into his conversation with Mora with an attitude of, well, a few more days and I'm done, and I don't need you anymore. I can get my shot from somewhere else. So I think it's going to move in more of a recruiting type of relationship where Mora wants to keep Brian happy instead of continuing to put him in the, the sort of puppeting positions.
Interesting.
So I think the confrontation that's coming next week is going to be one where Mora tries to smooth things over with Brian instead of... Right, because even if he is suspicious of Brian and thinks he's an enemy because he's met with Piper again, don't you want to keep your enemy close? You don't want the person who could really do damage to you to think that you're coming after them, because then they'll actually do it. Be nice to him, find out what he knows, and then, end it a different way.
And that's how Eddie would do it.
That's how I think it would go.
Smooth, cool, calm, and collected kind of way.
Right.
I think that Piper's going to come back as well, and there's going to be their little romance going on, which is going to affect
their little romance,
their love affair. but I think Rebecca, that's going to start to play a toll on Rebecca, and it's going to be weird to see the dynamic between watching him with a girlfriend and Rebecca kind of having to deal with that, like Rebecca, I see like in the future some type of like weird, Rebecca comes to check on him and he's like in bed with Piper and she's just like, ugh, what's going on? We bring on jealousy. It's gonna be a little triangle. It's gonna be a little triangle.
You think there's gonna be a catching them in the act moment?
Ooh.
I know, for the sake of you two, yes, I hope there is.
I will.
Because then we'll have the whole show
That's
about
a welcome
that.
prediction.
We've
for
already seen them in bed together. I don't really know.
I don't think we're gonna get much more on network
Much
television.
more than that.
No, I really hope that we do get more Piper. They set themselves up for such a great storyline arc. I think them working together is so cool to see two people at the top of their game sort of crack things. Is really cool. I mean, I'm going to shoot my own prediction down just because from a story standpoint, it's almost too powerful, like if they are together.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're gonna have to dismantle the Briper team a little bit somehow, and whether I think they teased us with Eddie Mora capturing her. I think if there's some type of conflict with Rebecca on one side and Piper on the other, all under the control of Eddie Mora, that Brian, I think for the sake of the greater good, would help Rebecca, even though he loves Piper. From a story standpoint, I feel like, can there be a full season 2 with like Brian and Piper? I mean, hopefully she escapes and she comes back. But it's such a powerhouse team that I feel like Eddie Mora, if he is smart at all, would try to dismantle that ASAP. So we'll have to see, man. Next week we get Bradley Cooper back, so that's gonna be an exciting episode. Obviously, definitely stay tuned, guys. Until then, where can the people find you guys?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M.
And you can find me at AmandaFTA31.
Awesome. You guys can find me at Hey John Blake, and we will see you next week. Later, guys.
Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.